Or when you're going through puberty and you're exposed to testosterone, which converts to DHE, that's the thing that's literally responsible for increasing your dick size and getting you to full maturation. Then if I literally pin the thing locally into my dick, then maybe I'll get some localized 5-alpha reduction to DHT, which increases my dick size. What's up guys, Derek, HormonePlateSmartAids.com. Today we're going to be talking about what would happen if you inject human growth hormone or testosterone into your Johnson. Yes, indeed, this is a thread. Came up on the subreddit. This guy apparently has already done 2 25 milligram test shots down there. All is okay, but curious to see the effects HGH could possibly have. He deleted the thread apparently, perhaps out of, ridiculousness, being embarrassed, or it's just fraudulent entirely. It's kind of hard to say. However, what I do know is over the years, I have seen a lot of people speculate about mainly the effects of human growth hormone and IGF-1 on dick size. Lesser so testosterone, but I just want to delve into both and give insight if there's any validity to this, because I actually know people who have tried this. Yes, I do know people who've tried this, and I can attest to the fact that for testosterone in particular, this is what happens if you're deprived of testosterone in puberty. So these are pseudo-hermaphrodites on the left and in the middle here. And on the right-hand side, we have a normal male who does not have a 5-alpha reductase deficiency. So basically, these two guys, they have the gene that encodes for 5-alpha reductase enzyme activity, which is the thing that converts testosterone to DHT and is responsible for sexual maturation, essentially like masculinization in general, and puberty. It's the thing that testosterone also does too, but the main thing that really fully matures you as a man is DHT. And this is why depriving it in your teenagehood and using something like a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor could be very problematic. So this is where it gets very sketchy for individuals who are super prone to hair loss, because if you're prone and you're like 15 years old and you're already experiencing androgenic alopecia, it's kind of an iffy subject. If you use something like finasteride, it would probably not be a good idea when you are otherwise potentially inhibiting the actual development and maturation of something as critical as your fucking dick. So again, these guys, the difference between them, this is a brother of that guy. So this guy on the right, normal male, brother of the affected male on the left. And as you can see here, the difference, the affected males are more muscular. Reason being is their testosterone levels are a bit higher. To be honest, is it like that substantial where it's like, oh, should I be using finasteride to gain muscle? No, you shouldn't be using it for that specific reason. But a lot of people think the opposite. They think if they use finasteride or dutasteride, will it affect my progress in the gym? What we do see in the literature is that changes in fat-free mass in response to graded doses of testosterone did not differ in men whom DHT was suppressed by dutasteride. So basically, fat-free mass, lean body mass, and additionally to that, strength metrics were not relevant to DHT inhibition whatsoever. Like DHT is essentially inactivated in muscle tissue to a degree where it is not really relevant for AR binding and transcriptional activity for hypertrophy. And I would say for strength, there might be more of a debate as to what the benefit of keeping DHT in the body is, and potentially for anti-estrogenic properties. If you're somebody who's prone to gyno, yeah, obviously these kind of things, these are more minority scenarios or very rare scenarios that are less relevant. But just the general question, will inhibiting DHT prevent you from gaining muscle? No, there's literally no difference. Even if you're on exogenous testosterone up to 600 milligrams a test, it makes no fucking difference. So anyways, that out of the way, I would not take the opposite of that and be like, oh, these guys, when you inhibit 5-alpha reductase, you have more testosterone because there's less testosterone converting to DHT. So if there's less converting to DHT through 5-alpha reductase, because these guys literally have no 5-alpha reductase, they have more testosterone staying as testosterone and converting to estrogen. So they have more estrogen production as well as testosterone remaining as testosterone. So the fact that they're more muscular than this guy, I wouldn't read into it too much. However, they lack temporal recession, whereas this guy has hair loss. Obvious, side effect of having DHT in your body. I wouldn't even say it's a side effect, it's a normal biologic process. But anyways, these individuals, what is the major differentiating factor is that this guy has a fully developed dick and these guys do not. Pseudo-hermaphrodites are often very underdeveloped, where they go through puberty still. The testosterone has them basically become identifiable as male. They have masculine properties and traits, but they do not undergo like full maturation sexually. So they differentiate themselves from females, like quite evidently. They don't look androgynous. They look male, but they lack the full development that DHT provides. So presumably they probably have a bit higher voice tube potentially. They lack temporal recession. Body hair growth is probably less. Main thing though, like dick size, quite not there. So if you're an individual who is, by that logic, you'd think, okay, well, when you're going through DHT or when you're going through puberty and you're exposed to testosterone, which converts to DHT, that's the thing that's literally responsible for increasing your dick size and getting you to full maturation. Then if I literally pin the thing locally into my dick, then maybe I'll get some localized 5-alpha reduction to DHT, which increases my dick size. That's not really the case. It's the same thing with individuals who have achieved like full height. If you pin them with a bunch of GH, they're not gonna all of a sudden get super tall. If you pin somebody who has not like had epiphyseal plate closure with a bunch of GH and inhibit estrogen, like maybe you might get some extra height growth. But if you're a full grown adult and this process is essentially like reached full homeostasis, it's peaked and everything's kind of like, I don't know, the gates have closed essentially. You're not gonna get anything out of injecting test into your dick except risking injury, so do not do it. HGH administration, this is something that, is quite, not well understood. It's something that downstream in the liver will convert to a bunch of different growth factors and spit them out, most notably IGF-1, you guys are probably most familiar with. And this is something that is utilized by bodybuilders, not just for lipolysis, but additionally to that, and mainly for hyperplasia benefits. So getting like proliferation of the satellite cells that could otherwise donate myonuclei and actually create like new muscle cells, which will then, hypertrophy and create, a bigger, stronger muscle essentially. So if you have all these satellite cells that can otherwise, are pretty multifaceted in what they can do, and you proliferate them and create more of them, there can be more myonuclear donation that occurs, which then it leads to a greater potential muscle building outcome because you have more literal myonuclei that you can induce hypertrophy in. So that's the idea behind using HGH, and this is like literally what makes you, taller during adolescence and blah, blah, blah. But if you've reached full adulthood and you're fully grown, you've had full DHT maturation of your dick, well, injecting HGH do anything, or even IGF-1 for that matter. Personally, I have not, at least anecdotally from people I would trust, it has not been reported to be effective. It is not something I think you should try. It is something that's probably, dangerous. It's probably not worth the risk. I don't see any utility of it. Ultimately, if you're going to be embarking on like PE is like, the acronym for penis enhancement, there is gelking. I would not really recommend at this point. It's something that seems to be, I don't know, like it's like the literal like main cause of Neapolitan dick. A lot of guys who do PE, they end up with like discoloration from like clamping and doing like weird shit where they like almost do like occlusion stuff in like their dick. Don't recommend it. Like I never really, like from what I understood years ago, it was like one of the most tried and true like manual exercises you could do, but it seems to be maybe the ROI isn't there, at least from what I understand now. Stretching, that is a manual exercise that's free, and it is like the most effective thing you could be doing for length. This stuff is super time intensive though, dude, so it's not like, unless you're literally like undersized, under average, I would not really pursue it unless you have a lot of time on your hands or you're insecure and this helps you get more secure, because ultimately over the years you start to really realize like when you're like 20, 21, you really get in your head about this shit, especially with chicks you're with. You're like, oh, they probably have way more experience than me. They've probably been with guys who are, older than me, and guys who are like way sicker at fucking, and get, how many dicks has she had? Like, what is the biggest dick she's had? Is mine gonna stack up? And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you don't bust too quick, you can maintain a high quality erection. Like, I think that's the main thing you should be worrying about rather than PE. Because at the end of the day, there are more guys suffering from erectile dysfunction and busting too quick, and erectile dysfunction as a result of porn addiction and over fapping, then there are individuals who are just like, too fucking like have micro penises that are not going to get the job done. So anyways, but if you do, and this is something that otherwise is going to make you more secure, like manual stretches, it's free. It's the most effective thing you can do for length. For girth, I don't really know of a manual exercise that could really replicate what you get from this thing. Yes, this is the bath mate that I have from way back when. This was a fun novelty thing back in the day. And also, when you're younger, you're a lot more insecure about the shit. And it's something that if it gives you the confidence going into a situation that you're otherwise like, oh, am I going to stack up? Am I, do I have enough experience? It can give you the peace of mind that you're like, potentially at least better than, most people she's probably been with. But ultimately, again, not fapping excessively, no porn. Like that is the main thing in my opinion. As far as stretchers go, and by the way, this is like the fucking uber hyper version of that device called Bathmate Extreme. It is reported to be the best version of the device and is what I would be using now if I were to be using it. So, and then for stretching, if you as far as manual stretching, I think that's the most effective thing you can do for length besides, it's called hanging. Definitely do your research before you get into hanging because that can be like really, really risky. But this thing is called the Phallosan Forte. It is, there goes the fucking pump, just fell off my desk. Phallosan Forte is a all-day stretcher or something that you shouldn't wear it all day, but you wear it for a decent portion, 8 hours a day or something. And it basically keeps you from turtling, which is something that'll happen more if you're fapping, by the way. If you fap and you bust a nut way too much, you're gonna end up with your dick's always not just flaccid, but it's literally turtling into itself because of how much it's atrophying after busting. And when it's not permanently atrophying, but it's the less blood flow you have in it, the more ability you have to atrophy. Deprivation of blood flow is essentially the mediator of what's going to cause lack of growth, essentially. So if you're doing all these exercises, but then you're fapping all the time and busting nuts all the time, you're probably not going to get anything out of this, from what I understand. So the all-day stretcher basically keeps you in a manually held with tension position where you're slowly, increasing the tension in your dick and lengthening it. But I would imagine manual stretching is probably more effective, but more time consuming, unfortunately. But it's free, whereas the all-day stretcher is pretty cost prohibitive. It's the only FDA approved one I know of, so there's that. And if you have a curve, it can correct it, which I actually think has utility though, because some people are really insecure about the curve of their dick if you have one. I think Bathmate helps with the curve too, but this is literally, the stretcher is FDA approved for the curve. So there's that. So anyways, I always had a link for those. I was an affiliate way back in the day on my blog because these were the things I was using when I was really into the shit. I had the original Hydromax, I think it was X30 or something. I forget what the exact name of my model was, but the Extreme is the newest and greatest one. And yeah, I'll put down the links if you want to support me and try it out, you can check it out. But ultimately, I think the biggest needle mover for anything sexual health related is going to be your neurotransmitters, your brain, and your actual emotional state and insecurity that you can essentially abolish through experience and not looking at porn. Because porn will fuck with your head. It's also the thing that probably leads you to believe you need these things in the first place, especially when you're younger and you're on gear, you start to look at more shit. You start to watch porn more than you should probably, trust me. So this kind of shit is almost self-inflicted in a way in some capacity. So anyways, there's that. But mainly the takeaway is don't inject HGH or test into your dick. It will not do anything for you. At least from what I've seen anecdotally, all the reports of people I know who were hardcore into the shit back in the day during their own hardcore, self-improvement phases. And they didn't get anything out of it. It was just a big fucking risk that they did for the sake of the greater good, I guess. I think you guys don't do it. So anyways, that's it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. By the way, if any of you guys have experience before and afters of I'm not saying I'm going to do another video on NoFap actually, probably after this one. But if any of you guys have experience with watching porn and then not watching porn or jerking off excessively with porn versus not, and how it impacted your sex life before and after, drop some comments because I think that kind of stuff is impactful for people to see who are don't really understand the actual degree of impact that will have on the quality of relationships, their mental state, even getting with chicks, that kind of stuff is heavy and can be a reality check. Because it's not there's a lot of people talking about this stuff. When guys like Alpha M talk about dick size, they just talk about shave your balls, use my fucking trimmer. Okay, we know, if you don't have a bunch of fucking hair there, it looks bigger, we got it. But this kind of stuff is hardcore, actual shit. So anyways, drop your experiences down below of how your sex life was impacted in a positive way or negative or whatever from these kind of, the fapping and whatnot. Because I think this is I think the porn deprivation, like stopping it entirely, blocking on your computer, overall will lead not just to better performance in the bedroom, but better, like literally better quality relationships, in my opinion. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you want to support me, you can check out anything in the video description below. Like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon.